Tonight's episode, Photo Finish.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
Cheat. Ninja? Ninja! Ninja!
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome everybody to our Daily Gun Show. Come to you live every weeknight at midnight Eastern, and we talk about guns for about an hour. So let's see, we go live at midnight so that we have the time slot to ourselves so that we can go as long as we like. Our goal would be to do a long format show talking about guns with a focus on the Second Amendment. We go live each weeknight, so that means each day of the week we're live. So we have some goals with the show. Each night we have a specific topic. On Mondays, we talk about motivation for Second Amendment activists, how to be an activist, why to be an activist, what's worked and what's necessary, what's needed. On Tuesdays, it's all about 2A, look at different things in the Second Amendment. Wednesdays, we have our quiz, take a look at pop culture. Thursdays, it's all about travel and training. Tomorrow, Friday, we'll take a look back at the week and take a look at what other people have been doing that focuses on what our Second Amendment protects. We document, we archive, and hopefully we entertain and have some fun along the way. Today we're going to have some fun and kind of reminisce. Is my internet bad? I don't know if I'm disconnecting. I'm going to shut my other computer off here, I guess. My signal thing tells me it's not working real good, so I don't know how the internet's working. Give me some feedback if you would. Smeggy's out there. Gunpowder Beauty is the first one to say hey tonight. Good evening. A bunch of people might be jumping over from Gizzard's Gary's chat, who did a chat on a different day of the week than he normally would because he's heading to the Wanamaker Gun Show in Tulsa. So let's see. We're going to be talking tonight about our firearms tour back in 2012. And I was just thinking about that trip. And we did go to Tulsa in 2012, but I don't think I was going to the gun show. I may have known about the gun show, but the gun show only happens twice a year, and I forget what time of year we went through there. It might have been October. So we missed the gun show for sure. But we did go to Tulsa, so we'll talk about that when we get to that point in the tour. So I don't know if anybody wants to join in tonight. I'll put a link to the co-hosts, I guess. We'll see if anybody wants to if anybody's awake this late. It's only 9 o'clock for the Pacifics. It's midnight for the Easterns, and everybody in between has different times. So I'm talking and typing as I talk here. Going to head over to where I let the co-hosts have a link if they want. And we'll chat about, whoa, that didn't work. We'll chat about the trip from 2000. What's going on here? All right. That's how it's going to be. That's how it's going to be. So I'm going to bring up our co-host, Sharon, and then I'll stand behind that screen. There we go. I'll jump back here. And what we're taking a look at here is, of course, this video. Let's see. Let's start a poll up for anybody that jumps in this evening. What should the poll be? I'm going to make it, were you around watching our adventures in 2012? That'll be the question. It's been a while since I've asked people how long they've been around, because we've been doing this for a while and not that many people have been around the whole time. So we started out in like 1997, for crying out loud. But we started doing the gun websites thing in 2004. But curious to see how many people were around since 2012. Yep. Since then and before. Then it can be yes, around that time. How about an option around not quite that long, or got here more recently? All right, let's try that. See if anybody wants to answer that poll. How long you been watching our adventures? Since 2012 or longer? Since around that time? Since not that long, or just got here recently? All right. Wood, summer of 2017, he's saying, I think. Yeah, it's weird to think back of, stuff that you do on the regular, stuff that you do kind of just paying attention to stuff. It's like thinking about when a movie came out or something. It's sometimes difficult to put it in scale or perspective. So that's the poll that's going. We'll see what people say out of that. But we're going to head over. I guess this is the Instagram. There's nothing really to look at there. Is Instagram a thing back then? No, it wasn't. So I wasn't using Instagram. Let's see. So we're going to go to gunshowloopholetour.com, where I've got all the stuff from our various tours. If we go to the main page of the whole place, it's gun shops all week, gun shows on weekends. That's our goal. When I can finally pay off the bills from the last tours and then figure out how to do the tours and not go into debt, that'll be my goal. Get back on the road, check out gun shops all week long as I drive to gun shows on weekends. And I'll get that figured out. I'll dial that in. And then we'll be doing that again. That gives us an ability to do what our goal is here, an honest look at firearms in the USA. So there's lots of people that are in the industry and want to tell you how great guns are because they want to sell you another one. There's people who have some political agenda and guns are one of their pawns. They got to tell you how good guns are because, they think you like guns and they want to be your friend or whatever. See, I just lost my internet. Or am I still connected? Then there's people who hate guns, of course. And then there's people who are in the middle and they don't pay attention at all. People that got no passion and no interest. What do you want them to narrate anything? They're boring. What are they going to tell you? Oh, guns exist. Guns are okay. Here's a gun, right? Like they're boring. So then there's people that hate guns. And of course, you don't want them narrating anything. So our goal is to go around with a passion and interest and understanding and an awareness of where guns fit into our culture and our society and how our society fits into the world. So I'm thinking, that's how guns fit into the world, and drive around and offer some of that in different ways, using the internets, using the other things, now that we're learning how to publish, we'll eventually be getting publishing some of the adventures. But anyway, an honest look at firearms in the United States, as much of the United States as we can drive around in, through our gun shows, which are awesome, gun shops, which are pretty awesome too, firearms museums. I didn't start out to look at firearms museums, but then it became sort of one of the major pillars of the tours. And of course, gun collections. And that's been one of the bonuses, one of the coolest things of the whole thing is seeing people's collections. And those collections, again, can describe the guns themselves, but then the community and the culture, right? And then how they fit in society. Super neat. So the goal of the Gun Show Loophole Tour is to share the firearm owner's experience. Why? Because one, I want to archive it for those that haven't figured out how cool guns are yet. A lot of people just think guns are like, commodities or whatever. And some people think that guns are tools or whatever. And some people think that guns are somehow magical. And some people think that they're somehow maybe even religious. I don't know. There's like people have a lot of different opinions about them. And sharing that is tough because a lot of people disregard, the significance of them. So we're trying to share that and share it with some authenticity. It's a big project, but that's why we're doing it, because it hasn't been done and too many people just gloss over it or will give you just the basics. And the basics are fine. I'm not dismissing that, but we're going to add more to that, or we're adding more to that with our projects. So it's not like I started out to do this, but it happened. So in 2001, did a road trip, was actually fishing on that road trip, but that was already documenting and being online during the road trip. So the internet was different in 2001. It was slower, but that was part of that road trip in 2001. I had a brand new Chevy truck. Let's go click on that one. This is the kind of the pre-2012. I guess I haven't clicked on it. So let's look at our vehicles. It was this old Chevy truck, and I had a back, what do you call it? Like a cap on the back. Then I would just jump in the back to sleep, and drove this thing out to DC, and from Tucson to DC. That was in 2001. And unfortunately, right at the time when, the worst time to go. So that trip was, did I have the numbers on here? I don't think I have the numbers in here. But, trip to DC, and then I kind of farted around. I went out to, what's the word, Tallahassee? Whatever that town is in Florida that's at the top of Florida, wherever I-10 ends in. So I took I-10 all the way east and then went north. It was a pretty good trip. I should get maps on these things. Oh, that's a pretty good thing. I'll put maps on each of these pages. So I've got the website, and I've obviously put some attention to the tours that are more recent here, less attention to these old tours. But that first tour in 2001, like I say, was really fishing. I fished I would drive for a bit, and I would stop and I'd fish. I really wanted to fish in Florida. I really wanted to catch a gar, and I wanted to fish in like the Mississippi, and I wanted to fish in a couple other places that I had just seen while I was driving around the country in my youth. And that's what I did. I drove around. I had 2 dogs back then, and I would just drive and stop. And my dogs were the kind of dogs you could just let them run around. They listened, so they didn't really need leashes or nothing. A couple of times in the South, I was worried about an alligator because I don't know how dangerous alligators are, and they don't know what an alligator is, or they didn't know what an alligator is. Anyway, that was a pretty fun trip. Went over to Tallahassee, and then went up to DC. 9/11 happened. Stayed there for a bit until it was everybody was okay with travel again, and then booked it back to Arizona. So I didn't have a lot of time on the way home to do much else than experience the United States post 9/11 on a road trip, driving around in my van, checking out the hotels, the restaurants, the gas stations, the truck stops. Nothing else. I was just driving. But that was a unique experience, driving post 9/11 across from DC to Tucson in a vehicle. I was not in a hurry because you could tell nothing was going on. But, it was a weird time. It's Veterans Day tomorrow. That was a long time ago. Everyone was thinking, do I need to go back in? Like, what did I do? Did I do something that is easier for me to get back in the swing of things than it is to hire somebody new? That was, a lot of us are just trained to do dumbass shit. And if it's going to take somebody 8 months to learn that dumbass shit, and it's only going to take us a month to remember it all, it was one of those debates. Do you go back in? Is it necessary? What's going on here? How much are we mobilizing? It was that kind of a trip. Anyway, it's a head trip as well as a road trip. In 2009 is when so in 2001, I was fishing, and it's by myself. I had friends that, I was basically doing the trip online because I had friends on both ends of the trip. which I was sharing it with, and then discovering that people were finding out about it along the way, but it wasn't really designed for those people along the way, or the observers. It was really just for the participants, and we were using the internet to post everything. 2009 comes along, and this is 7 years later. About 2005, we became press officially. Like, we started having press credentials, going to places to cover it with cameras, posting that information online. We had been building websites for people. We understood how to do search engine and stuff. So, we were creating content for a reason, and we were creating content officially. By 2009, we had been doing that now for about 4 or 5 years. And in 2009, we started to travel for SHOT Show, because SHOT Show used to travel back then, but also to go to the NRA show. It was out in North Carolina that year. Or no, in 2009, it was in Phoenix. Sorry. So we were just traveling to SHOT Show in 2009. But that gave me a taste for travel, and the guys got into it. And it was costing a lot of money. It cost us $3,000 to go to Florida back then, and that was a lot of money. So in 2010, when we went to North Carolina and then up to Utah, we got some sponsorship. We worked with Front Sight. That was an organization out of Nevada that has had a, well, it's out, it's bankrupt now. It had a real up and down reputation, I guess, in the industry. It was developed as a ripoff. We all know what it's like when a ripoff happens. It was a ripoff of Gunsight, but in a different way. So it was a bigger, more, I'm going to say cheesy and more corporate version of Gunsight. It was a larger facility, which would allow more people through. It offered a lesser curriculum based off the main curriculum, literally a carbon copy. But because they had more people going through, more graduates means potential for less quality and more people of less quality, right? Like, if only a few bad people can get through Gunsight, if any, some bad people could get through Frontsight, and that meant there was bad graduates from Gunsight, bad graduates from Frontsight. So it had not a great reputation. We had been working with Frontsight since, I guess 2006. And by 2010, I was they were on my nerves. I understood where they stood, and I didn't want to be associated with them unless, like, there was some reason to be. So that's where I was like, well, I tell you what, you want to help us get to NRA show? Then let's talk. And they went, yeah, here's some money. And I was like, oh, snap, it's that easy to get money. So we got, two of us went to NRA show, and I didn't like that. I really didn't like it. So that's when I stopped doing sponsorship. We went to NRA, and I don't want to get too far into it because we're not really talking about 2010. I'll do 2010 some other time. So it's not really SHOT Show, it's NRA show. But that's where we learned that media people can be a-holes, especially to each other. And there's people that fear the next. They fear whoever's coming along next. And, we were young. So we were young, we were able, we had accomplished quite a bit by 2010. And when we hit the scene, there was people that did not like that. The writers, let's say, the people that were from television and from writing. And we had some conflicts when we were trying to collaborate with them. And it was shitty. And it was shitty to pay a lot of money to go have that experience. It would have been much better to have that experience in Phoenix the year before. We had a pretty good experience in Phoenix the year before because we weren't trying to collaborate. So that was our first attempt. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, there was 2 other ways that we tried to collaborate with fucking YouTubers. Sorry. YouTubers are assholes. And that's when we first started to learn it, is in 2010. Actually, I totally forgot about them. But I was thinking more of the female organization at the time. I'm not here to bitch about that, but there was some organizations that were, I guess they still technically still exist. They were new, and they just did not start. They did not grow friendly or pleasantly. And we had to experience that. And it cost quite a bunch of money to experience that. So that was an experience of paying to get some harsh reality. Let's put it that way. When you're talking about the last generation, they played different games. They played in the different ballparks. So they they were a little bit more rough and tumble, and people may be rough and tumble now, and I just don't know it, but they were less. Everybody was, and it was like more of them were, and it was a little more. There was less veiled. Is that the way I say it? So we get to 2011 and then 2012, and somewhere in there I met Haas. I wasn't looking to meet Haas. I was actually getting pissed of trying to reach out. I was reaching out to people. Well, there was nobody bigger than me except for one guy. So I was trying to reach out to people that I figured were going to be bigger than me. And guess what? They are way bigger than me now. So when Haas came along, he was somebody smaller than me asking to hang out. And I was like, no, no thanks. But he was persistent. And then he started to do stuff. And I was like, oh, okay. And then by 2012, I think we had already met up at SHOT Show by then. SHOT Show by 2012, let's remember that SHOT Show had already parked at Sands. 2009 is when we started bringing video to SHOT Show. 2007 or 8 is when Mil-Spec Monkey and Military Moron and I can't ever think of the other dude's name. The 3 dudes that started video started in probably 2009 for real, bringing video to SHOT Show to the internet immediately. So in 2009, or they started that in 2008, maybe 2007, but probably 2008. In 2009, we brought videos. And then by 2010, we were doing 300 videos at SHOT Show. So by 2011, I was already getting sick of doing that. I was wearing everybody out doing that many videos, our own crew. And we weren't getting anything out of it. We weren't trying to do it except to do it. Like we were just doing it to flex. We were just doing it to see what could be done. And it was neat because by then we had seen the industry change from cameras to digital cameras to video. And it went pretty quick. By 2012, it was, we remember when this was too. This was pre 2012. So this was pre all the garbage that happened in 2013 as a result of November of 2012. So by 2011, I kind of gotten soured on the idea of sponsorships, and I was still interested in collaborating. And we had some pretty good relationships with Cutlery Lover, this dude in Kentucky, and then Eric from Iraqi Veteran, a couple other people, Marco out in DC, and people in Tulsa, people in Arkansas, people all over. So I had smashed my truck that I had driven in 2001 that I mentioned. I forget what year I smashed it, but I smashed my truck. It wasn't my fault. I was minding my business and it got smashed. Let's just say it got smashed. So I was sick of driving around my smashed truck, and I couldn't take my smashed truck to Vegas, and I needed to get something else. So I think in 2011, I took all the money I had gotten from YouTube, which at the time I thought was a bunch of money. It was a couple of grand, and bought a cop car. I bought a cop car from Albuquerque, and that's the thumbnail of this thing. We're going to jump into the 2012 page here now. So I bought this cop car from Albuquerque, and it was a 2000 cop car, Crown Vic P71. It's pretty fucking awesome. I guess it had technically been in a wreck before, but it's in good shape. And so I was thinking, okay, I just got this cop car. I don't know how long it's going to last. I've really, really, really wanted to do a road trip in a cop car for a long time. So I'm doing it, right? So I call up Haas and I'm like, dude, can you jump down here? And we're going to drive around the country in a cop car. And he's like, yeah, let's do that. So he drove down in a train to Tucson. We got in the cop car. And then the goal was to get to New York, to that castle in New York that I wanted to check out. So grabbed the credit card, had it full, and then, had a bunch of money on the credit card. Figured I was going to spend about $3,000. And in other words, had money to redo the credit card up to there. We knew it was going to take about a month or something. And our goal was to hit as many gun shops as we could find along the way. And then we wanted to do something like each state that we would drive into, we'd do a thing like a little review of the CCW laws there. And at the time, there was some apps you could get that you tell your phone what the CCW laws were at the time. Those apps, those phone apps come and go because technology changes underneath them, right? The technology of the internet keeps changing. Things get faster. Phones get better. Operating systems get upgraded. People move on. Companies change. Preferences, fees, everything changes. So these apps don't last very long. At the time, this one was pretty hot and everybody was using it. And we were going to use that as a kind of a supplement, that type of thing, with these videos about each state, because we were going to hit 19 different states, 16 states. I think originally it was 16 states. We mapped it all out. It was going to take almost a month, and we were going to meet up a bunch of people. Somewhere along the line, long story short, we didn't meet up with everybody, had some car trouble. As you can imagine, an old cop car. Ended up having some car trouble, nothing too bad. And, getting used to the cop car and everything, learning it. It was a brand new, to me, cop car with like 100 and something thousand miles on it. It was not a brand new cop car or anything by any means. It was a 12-year-old cop car. And somewhere in Virginia, we started having some car trouble. So ended up kind of turning around and coming back with still hitting quite a few stops, actually. All right, so nobody's jumping in to chat with me, so we're probably just going to go for a little while longer because it's kind of boring to talk about this. I thought it might be more interesting. I don't really have that many pictures in here. Some of these others, I might have more pictures. Like I said, this one had nothing or less to do with Second Amendment stuff, but it did get me kind of going with the tour and learned a bunch of things not to do, a bunch of lessons and failures, right? So that learned what not to do. Also got me introduced to the Firearms Museums. So I'm trying to remember, we did go to J.M. Davis when we went to Tulsa. Oh, we definitely did. What am I thinking? Yeah, we definitely did. Fucking Tollway in Tulsa. So, yeah. All right, so I'm just going to start and see how long we go. I don't smoke. I wish I had a cigarette because it's the kind of thing. You're starting off on a long story here. So we started off in Arizona. Haas came down, and like I say, came down on the train. We didn't know each other we were kind of friends, but we didn't like hang out or nothing before that. So right off the bat, it's like, well, this is either going to work or it ain't. But I could just tell that Haas is kind of dude that could handle this. There's people that can handle that kind of thing going on a road trip, people that can't. He seemed like a dude who could handle it. So I'm like, all right, let's go. And the big question would be, what we were expecting out of this and that kind of thing. So anyway, so we get on the road and head north. We met up with some chick in Phoenix. We tried to. That was the deal. So right off the bat, we tried to meet up with a chick in Phoenix, a Marine. I tell you what, if I had $5 for every time a chick from the Marines was weird on the internet, I'd have like $50. There's a lot of good Marine, and I shouldn't be talking shit on their birthday, but I can't help it. That was what happened. The first thing we did is not meet up with a chick who was a Marine and was really big at the time. And wait a minute, I'd have to think. This was many years ago. She might have spun out completely. It might have been that chick that spun out completely. No wonder she spun out completely. I totally forgot that was that. So, all right off the bat, we leave Phoenix or Tucson. Phoenix is an hour or something away back then. Well, still back then, it was still an hour or something away. And do meet up with some guy who was doing a job where he drove around in some crazy looking robot that would reach down. You'd drive slowly over a bridge and this thing would reach down underneath and do a feel up underneath the bridge and see if everything's okie dokie under there. Real creepy little robot that would reach up underneath and feel a bridge. Really creepy. But anyway, that was some kind of infrastructure system. So it was neat to talk to that guy for a bit. Right off the bat, though, we started setting a pace of like driving an hour and farting around for 4 hours. So it's not going to be a good road trip pace. We booked up into going north. I didn't know about the Red Dawn gun, but we drove right past where the Red Dawn RPKs are for rent. we went up, did a little cutoff, drove around, did some shortcuts and stuff because this was Arizona. Booked over to Albuquerque and had some fun driving to Albuquerque, trying to remember what I should talk about and what I shouldn't talk about. Smeggy's joining us. Thanks for joining. So we just got into New Mexico. It's the middle of the night, and we're booking, and that's where I think at this point I already knew I was going to Red Dawn. So this was the first time I'm going to Red Dawn in my cop car with the Doberman in the back, and Haas is tagging along. He's down with going to Red Dawn. So we booked up through the middle of the night into Red Dawn. Must have got there for the morning. Farted around, saw what we could see, went to the school. So this was 2012. Is this the first time or second time I've been to Red Dawn? It might have been the second time I've been to Red Dawn, but the first time I knew I could fart around because I had my time was mine. I think the first time I'd been to Red Dawn, somebody else was driving and all I could do is go, where in the town where Red Dawn was from? And then I knew I had to get back there. So this was the time I could get back there, and I was going there to go there. So we went to we were there in the morning. I remember we were in Albuquerque at night because I can remember pissing in this place one time. So we had to get there. I don't remember. So we had two people. So I might have been asleep while we were driving, right? We had two people driving. It was pretty good. It's always a good idea when you have two people driving, or when you can have two people driving. So
yeah, that makes the best road trip.
Yeah, especially if for something that's just New Mexico driving where it's kind of boring sometimes, or, that kind of thing, you can wake up and be there. So we get to Red Dawn and we check out what am I trying to say? Like there's it's not a museum. It's like it's like an office. It's only a room. It's an office that's like I don't know if there's a word for it. There's a word for it. But the people that have like all the brochures for the town, and they say how good the town is if somebody's visiting the town, and they tell you where the stuff is. So they told you where.
Like the Welcome Center.
Yeah, I guess it's that. But this town has had a bunch of movies. No Country for Old Men, Red Dawn, a bunch of movies I don't care about, were made there, and like dozens, like a dozen at least. So there's even a brochure that talks about all the movies, and there's other places where you can go in town and see where movies were made. So that's one of their big things. And I think that's one of the reasons why there's so much weird stuff around, like olden stuff, because probably it makes a difference to other people for other movies that I've never seen. But anyway, so we talked to her a little bit, and she knew a couple of things about Red Dawn, but again, there's a lot of movies that have been made there, and Red Dawn, they could care less about. It's an old movie, and not that many people care. But I think she did say something like a lot of people come there for Red Dawn. She just didn't want to admit it. And not that much stuff exists from Red Dawn. They blew up a building or two, and the vacant lot is there from one of them, but the other one is just another building now, so it's wrong. And then a lot of stuff for Red Dawn they built for Red Dawn, and then they took it away because it was just for the movie. So it's not really anything to look at anymore. So there's just a few things you can actually see from Red Dawn anymore. So in other words, there's more stuff they can talk about other movies or whatever. Anyhow, it was a cool trip because even though I didn't know about as many places to go, I was able to get feet on the high school, which was still in the same shape as it was in the movie. Wait. Damn it. Now I'd have to think about it. No. Shit, now I can't remember. I don't think I've ever seen the school with the windows. I don't think I've ever seen it. I think I'm tripping myself out. I think the school, you know how when they come in and the paratroopers just shoot the windows of PKMs in the beginning, and the kids are looking out the window and everything? Those windows were all boarded up. Probably, I don't know why, because it's pointing west. It would make no sense. If they pointed south, I could see boarding them up because it would be like a heat thing. But they're pointed west, so by the time the kids are getting out of school, there's sun's barely hitting them. But for whatever reason, those windows are gone. Maybe because the Russians shot them all out. But the rest of the building is the same. And even though it was a little bit weird, the football field where they all tear out of there and go running away from the paratroopers, and the football field and the old sign, all that stuff was still there. And we could just drive around. So I got pictures of the Doberman in that football field, and we could just go anywhere. I think I've been there twice since then where you could still go to the high school. But the last couple of times I've gone there to Red Dawn, the high school is completely like in weird fences, like because they're scared of, I don't know, somebody stealing a kid or something. And just, you can't go in the high school anymore. You used to be able to, but now it's parents only school. You got to have reason to be there to things. So, and it totally looks wrong too with all the fences and everything. I think they might even have torn down the scoreboards. It's just completely different. That was pretty much all we saw though, because that's all I knew about, and that's all the lady could tell us about. So she didn't tell us about a couple of other things. So we booked out of there. We didn't know what we didn't know. We leave Red Dawn, and already we're off to a good start because we're having a good time, made pretty good progress. I've done other road trips with friends before, and they turned out to just be like, hey, let's stop here and get drunk, or like, let's stop here and fart around. And then we're there for 3 days when we should have been on the road for 4 days or something, right? So we started out having a pretty good pace and everything. Got through the rest of New Mexico, got through Texas, got into Oklahoma, and that's where we were going to start meeting up with people. My goal was to meet up with a couple of AK builders that I knew. So 2 of them were there in the Tulsa area. And I think that's when one of my AK friends told me about the museum, I think. So when we got to Tulsa in the middle of the night, my first experience, well, not my first experience with that Tulsa tollway, but my first experience trying to stop at that exit for the museum, I missed the exit, and there was a cop going the other way. I can still remember, because otherwise I probably would have just slowed down and backed up and not missed the exit, right? Because I missed the exit, and I think we must have had phones that could tell us this, because there was a cop going the other way, so I wasn't going to slow down and try to back up on a tollway, even though it was like, let's say, 2 a.m. There was nobody else on the tollway except us and the patrol guy. But I was in Oklahoma with Arizona plates in a cop car, and I'm not going to, let's just say I wasn't going to stop.
And at 2 a.m. doing weird driving stuff, they'll assume you're drunk.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's no reason for them to not jump across and stop me or whatever. So, and I had no idea. But then as soon as we get past there, we figure out, oh, it's 16 miles to the next exit. And then you have to drive 16 miles back. So it was going to be 32 miles. Thank you, Oklahoma. Assholes. So we get 16 miles down the highway. We weren't having a great time because Haas was like, dude, you should have just backed up. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I figured that out about 2 miles past the exit, though. You know what I mean? So there's nothing I could do. So it was one of those kind of evenings. We are both super tired. We get to the place where you can turn around, which I guess is somewhere by Snob now. But you get off. I don't think you had to pay to get off, but maybe you had to pay to get off. And that was like $0.25 or something. And we figure, okay, you're going to have to pay to get off on the other end, and we'll pay with $1 because there's a person at the other end. That's the other reason I was scared to back up and everything, I think, is because there's a person on the exit that we're trying to get to, like a human. And the other ones, it's just a little robot basket. So I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering right, we got off the highway, and a cop car is weird because it's on the ground. I'm used to a van where you're looking down at robot baskets. In the cop car, you're like having to throw money up in the air somehow and then over into the basket or whatever. And I think I missed $0.25 or something, and I'm like, fuck. And I like, all of a sudden we're out of quarters, and I threw the last quarter on the ground. I couldn't find the quarter. We had to like stop and move and back up to like open the door and like get out. You know, a cop car door is like a wing on an airplane. So you can't just open it. Anyhow, so it was an ordeal to get off the tollway 16 miles down. We go across, get back on. They want whatever it is, 25 cents or 50 cents because, stupid tollway. I think I was just like, I'm hopefully this is long enough or whatever. I think we got to the point where like we just threw 25 cents in there and left. We're like, whatever. There's no way I'm going to find any more change. And come on, there's nobody even around. And it wasn't even an arm. It was just a robot basket, and they wanted 45 cents or something, or 50 cents. And we had like 30 cents or something, mainly because I had lost $0.25 at the other one, right? It was just a mess. So we get back 16 miles later and get off the highway. And I think it was something like I give the lady $2 and she's like, oh, don't worry about it. Those machines are busted. Nobody even tells, most people don't even pay them. Thanks, lady. So anyway, it was a big mess. We get off, we get there, go to the museum. It's awesome. Now we're headed to, we went to a couple of different tours, like I said, Tromix and Firing Line. Firing Line told us about a casino down on the way over to Missouri. So did that, and then checked out the restaurant at the casino, which is a nice thing when you're on a trip, because usually casinos have pretty awesome food for a decent price. Went into Missouri, went back down into Arkansas. I had just got 2 kind of interviews, tours of manufacturers in Oklahoma, right? We had gotten the kind of the museum tour and whatnot in Tulsa. So I don't know if it was like, I can't remember anymore, but basically Haas was like, I'm going to get us a tour. And I'm like, all right, do it. So somewhere in there, he called around when we were in Tulsa, I think while we were in with Tromix or something, he's calling around and he knew Chris Costa. So he calls Costa or Costa calls him back, I guess, and goes, hey, you guys go to Nighthawk. So we're like, fuck yeah. So now we're going to, what is that, Berryville, Arkansas. Well, there ain't no straight line in Arkansas. Even rulers are crooked in Arkansas. So you go into Missouri and then you go down into Arkansas and then you go all over the place and then you finally get to Berryville. So we got to Berryville at like 4 a.m. or something, and we took like, we call those kind of showers in the bathroom of the McDonald's. It's one of the first times I've been in a McDonald's in decades too. Haas was cool. He didn't care at all that we didn't go to McDonald's because I don't eat McDonald's and shit like that. So we did okay. I mean, we didn't eat the same foods at all, but I didn't have to go to McDonald's at all. But we did go to McDonald's because it was the only place open in Berryville. Took like showers in the bathroom kind of thing. Got over to the place. I think we can talk about it now. They've already moved their location. So Nighthawk comes from the other one in that same town, Wilson, right? So some of the gunsmiths, from my understand, left Wilson for whatever reason, started up their own place, and they started it in a like a storage facility where you have like a hallway with garage doors going down it, and then garage size rooms, right? Like in a long building. Well, that's where they set up shop. So the offices were at the front where the office would be. And then the first couple, I think, were like leather storage or something. And then the next maybe 6 of these bays were gunsmiths. And Nighthawk's thing is 1 gunsmith, 1 gun, or 1 gun, 1 gunsmith, or something like that. So each gunsmith takes the raw parts, looks at the build list that the customer wanted, and builds that gun. And they build every part of it. So they have really nice workstations, and in each of these bays had different gunsmiths. And then going down the right side, it would be like I don't remember the order anymore, but it would be like somebody doing holsters or leather work, somebody building slings. They did shotguns and stuff. So if somebody was working, 2 or 3 of the bays were working on shotguns and different parts of the shotgun processes. Somebody was doing like parkerizing. So all the different processes and departments were in these different rooms going down this hallway. And they had a Boston Terrier and a couple other dogs that were running the hallways and just were people that worked there. And the dogs would come in and out of their offices or whatever down into this main hallway. It was so awesome. So we get there at like, I'm just going to say 5 a.m. or something, when they're kind of open up and the bosses are hanging out, and they give us like they're super friendly, super nice people. I mean, they didn't give us no guns or nothing, but they're super nice. And I guess Chris had asked them to give us a tour out of nowhere, like as we're driving over there. It was awesome. And they go, yeah, sure, no problem. So they're giving us this tour, and they're just cool as hell. Like they're just getting up and, getting ready to start working. And they're like, hey guys, talk to this guy who's new and let this guy take pictures of your shit or whatever. So, they let us go through and chat with everybody. And then I think we were there for a good couple of hours because, again, they were nice. They let us shoot in their place for shooting, and they had a bunch of suppressed, fancy Nighthawks. So we got to shoot a bunch of guns and everything. And then by the time, then we went over and looked at some manufacturing stuff with them. I don't know. And then, so we had a really good time. And then by the time we're done, it's only like 8 a.m. or something. It's like good hour plus before the museum's going to open. But they're like, oh, you got to go to our museum. It's one of the best museums ever. And we had just been to Tulsa. So we're like, yeah, whatever. We just been to this museum. So we know what museums are now. Well, I didn't know. So we didn't know. I took some pictures of the outside of the building. I went up and looked in the window and I didn't see nothing. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll stay or I'll go. And I'm going to blame Haas. He goes, let's get out of here because I don't care about museums. I don't know what happened. But either way, I think you know what happened is we were trying to get to Memphis because we were trying to get to the Blackwater facility. We hadn't gotten a final no, that we couldn't go to Blackwater or whatever it was yet. So we were going to try to go to this facility where places trained. And it wasn't necessarily wasn't a publicly available place. So we were trying to get into places by this time. We were like, oh, let's get into more places. Let's get more tours. So we figured, let's book. Let's get ourselves closer to Memphis just in case we get the okay to go to this place, this facility. So we're booking, and it takes forever to get anywhere in Arkansas. And there's a lot of chicken farms in Arkansas. It was interesting. Like I'm going to say it's interesting. I would have never driven from Berryville to Memphis if I wasn't driving from Berryville to Memphis. So that was an interesting part of the trip. We get to Memphis. Let's just say something happened. We got to Memphis, and then we didn't go into, did we? No, we didn't go into Graceland, but I go to Graceland every time I'm in Memphis. So I don't think Cost had ever been. So we stopped by there. Now at this point, here's another thing we can talk about. At this point, we're kind of trying to get ourselves, I had a couple other things arranged for the trip already, and we were trying to get to the castle, and Haas had got us into Nighthawk and through Costa, and we did some other things. And then now we're trying to do as much as we possibly can on the trip. Like we're just trying to do as much as we can. So we're in Memphis. We stopped by Graceland. I think we went into the parking lot and hung out, and we kind of did as much as we could without paying for anything, which was a lot back in 12. So you could go walk around, you could look over the fence at the airplanes and stuff, and I could see the Graceland and everything. So, I got my Graceland fix, and it gave us time to recon. And then I was trying to tell him, let's go by Jaeger, because he's just down the street here. He's cool, and we can stay at his place for free, because we're also wasting money because we were staying at hotels like a bunch of princesses. So we were wasting money. And this is because we weren't paying attention. I'm not good with money. So we're just not paying attention. We're not staying at luxury hotels, but we're staying at hotels like an idiot. And we're eating a free breakfast. We're not going nuts, but we're hemorrhaging money with the hotels. So I'm like, let's go by Jaeger. He'll let us sleep there for nothing. And then we can book up to the fifth to Campbell, and I forget what it is, Brigadier Quartermaster and ATS Tactical. We wanted to go to ATS Tactical and get a tour, a nylon manufacturer out front of Fort Campbell. So I was like, let's go by Jaeger, because he's like right south of there. So Haas hated Jaeger. He's like, oh, hell no, I'm not going up by him. He didn't know him, but he knew this other guy who hated him. So he's like, oh no, I don't want to go by him. And I'm like, look, dude, unless you're going to pay for the hotel, I'm going to go to Jaeger's and you can go pay for some hotel. So I call Jaeger. He's like, yeah, of course, come by. So we go. I'm like, dude, just go. You'll see what I'm talking about. You'll be fine. We get there. Long story short, I won't get into it. We had a great time. Jaeger's a good dude, was a good dude. And Haas and him became really good friends. Haas was away in the training, all the operator stuff, and it was perfect for when they were trying to get people there to be part of it and everything. So it worked out really well. We had a freaking great time in Tennessee. So we hung out with Jaeger. He let us stay at the place, and there was between classes and everything. So we were literally the only ones there, him and his family. And then we booked up to Campbell, checked out ATS, had a great tour, chatted with them. See, we weren't really trying to create relationships and blah, blah, blah. We were just exploring the community and sharing. Like we were trying to figure out how to get video, figure out how to take pictures, figure out ideally how to like edit while we're on driving and stuff like that. So, I mean, it didn't work because we were in a cop car. That's why I got a van now, because it didn't work in a cop car. You can't sit in the passenger seat of a cop car and edit videos. It ain't going to work. You could probably sit in the back of an ambulance and edit videos while somebody else is driving. And that would be awesome. But so anyway, we're trying to do that kind of stuff, trying to figure it out. I have a thing to do over by Dollywood, and we got time. Jaeger goes, why don't you guys go by Barrett? I'm like, okay, sounds good to me. I mean, I could take it or leave it. It's Barrett. Sounds cool though. I mean, I'm never going to buy a Barrett, but I'll go look at how they're made. So we go over to, is that Knoxville, Nashville? I forget which one's which. All of the towns in Tennessee look the same to me. But whatever the first one is there, I forget what it is. Is it Nashville? Which one's on the left?
I got no idea.
I think it's Nashville, and Knoxville is the one with Dollywood. But whatever, it's the one that's close. It's the one that's not next to Dollywood. So we go there, and it takes a little while to find it. It's not necessarily hidden, but it's not on GPSs back in the day. We find it, we get in there, and everything, right? It's awesome. So it's a whole story. I don't know if I want to get into it, but we get there, we get in, and then we get in. We meet Barrett's daughter, and she goes, "I don't know what happened to Smeggy." Oh, we meet Barrett's daughter, and she goes, "Hey, I'm going to have the plant guy give you a tour. The plant manager give you a tour." And then, so I'm like, okay, go into his office, and he's like, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, who the hell are you guys? Like, nobody gets to do this tour. It was awesome. So we got the rundown that like nobody gets to do this tour. And he's like, but whoever the hell you are, you're here. So let's take this tour. The only thing that sucks is it's one of these, I've been on a couple of tours like this. When they do ITAR stuff, you can't take pictures in there. So we couldn't take any pictures or nothing, but we got a deluxe tour of the Barrett place. It was freaking great. My dog's been in the Barrett facility and everything. It's awesome. We got to hang out. It was just awesome. So, seeing them all, it's neat. Just everything about it is awesome. We get out of there and we're just stoked. We go to the other one, Maxville, I guess, and went to Dollywood. Well, not really to Dollywood, but down to Smoky Mountain Knife Works, which is the same thing. So Haas gets to see some Smoky Mountain Knife Works. So this is 2012, right? I forget whenever, how Marines are. This is their birthday, so we have to be nice to them. But Marines, they have some secret handshake or whatever. They can always tell when there's another Marine around. So whenever Arlie Emery would be at SHOT Show, somewhere in there, I don't know when. I didn't have to watch them. Haas and Arlie Emery hung out and met each other. And then we're in Smoky Mountain Knife Works in 2012 in like October, and Arlie Emery's standing there. We're like walking around, and Haas had never been to Smoky Mountain Knife Works before. I hadn't been since I was a little kid, and it was in a new building and everything. So I'm exploring this crazy new multi-level building. I think it's the building it's in now still. And, we're running all around looking at this place and just going nuts. And we were killing time because my next appointment was, we had to kill time for it. So I was like, perfect, let's hang out at Smoky Mountain Knife Works, right? And we meet Arlie Emery standing there looking at knives. And then he turns around and he goes, oh, hey, Haas, or something like that. Like, I swear to shit, he goes, oh, hey, Haas. Like, he remembered Haas from just hanging out with him at SHOT Show. That was pretty epic. He didn't remember me. He might have been like, oh, hey, because I kind of snuck into SHOT Show one year, 2007. I snuck into SHOT Show one year and got autograph with him way before the rest of the place opened. But so he may have remembered me from that, but I can't imagine why he would. But he definitely remembered Haas, and it was pretty neat because they got their little Marine handshake. So that was a whole nother story. So then we leave that place, the Smoky Mountain Knife Works, head up to meet with Boje and Dottie. And they are the people that, they're a German engineer that fixed up the AA-12 full auto shotgun. Their whole reason to take the trip was to get to the museum because I could go past Boje and Dottie. Two of the coolest people I've ever met. We're in Tennessee. I had seen what's-his-face shoot the AA-12 one time. And I was like, well, I'm on YouTube. I could shoot an AA-12 also. But I want to do more than just shoot one because that's weak. I want to go learn about it more, find out what the story is and everything. I start to do a little bit of research, and I figure out that the same people who know all about the AA-12 have created a mini revolver. Well, in 2010, 2 years before this, I already started going on my tour of NAA and doing factory tours for the mini revolvers. So I definitely want to meet this guy. He has his own mini revolver, the BC Special, Bourget Cornelius Special, the BC Special, and he worked on the AA-12, right? So we get there. He's in a little town in Tennessee. He's working out of an old, like, 1940s, maybe 1930s, 1940s gas station, like old-timey, old-fashioned gas station. And he's in there with a bunch of machine stuff. Some of it had computer stuff on it. Most of it was just old-fashioned real machinery, real mills and stuff I'm used to from being a little kid around that kind of stuff. And just a little grandpa and a grandma, super nice people, super cool. Let us in, talk to us, give us, you've seen the videos. If you've ever seen the videos, I've made a couple of videos of the interviews, gave us a tour, let us shoot the AA-12, ended up selling me out of his own personal collection one of his mini revolvers, gave us some souvenirs, super nice people, and then tell us, oh, you want to talk to Jerry Berber. So they give us directions, give us a phone number, send us on our way, and we go up and meet the guy who owns the AA-12, who's doing the casting for Charter Arms revolver parts while we're talking, and has done the internals for the MAC-10s. He's done all the receivers, for all the mini revolvers that have been existent. And super cool story. So we got to talk to that guy for a while, and this is before we even leave Tennessee. So now we leave Tennessee and we're heading into Virginia, and I think we went by Monticello. Really like Monticello myself. It's one of my favorite places as far as the old president stuff goes. And then we had the light on the vehicle. And at this point, we're running low on money. We had the light on the vehicle. Our goal was to next go up to New York, but I would have had to driven through 2 states away from anybody I knew. Oh, and we also got shafted. I guess I'm ignoring the bad parts. We did this tour. Well, I'm only talking about the good stuff because I'm optimistic, I guess. But during this time, we're also missing YouTubers, people without any kind of real skin in the game, people that wanted to talk a lot and wanted to be in the game be part of the conversations and stuff. But when it was like, hey, drive a couple hours and let's do something, drive a couple hours, be part of this epic thing that's happening. This is all October of 2012, be part of this. Well, I'm too busy. I got other things to do. Blah, blah, blah. So we're getting a little discouraged with our lack of participation. We do have Eric, who's been calling me the whole time, checking on our progress, making sure everything's cool, blah, blah, blah. We're still going to be in, because he was going to do his Halloween shoot and he wanted us to be there, or we were coordinating it or whatever. So we're having some phone calls with him, and Cutlery Lover blows us off, and he's in Pennsylvania. So the dude in Ohio or someplace blew us off on the way over the Appalachians, and now we're on the other side of the Appalachians, and Cutlery Lover blows us off. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to drive my vehicle that's giving me trouble up into a state where I don't even know, because it's been a long time since I've driven around up there. But it's like, the real terrain and stuff, and I didn't want to do it. So it's like, we can book over to DC where we know people, and I can have the car in a safer place, just more people around, I'm more comfortable. So we head over to DC, and that's where Marco's at. And Marco is a cool dude. He hooks us up, takes Haas. They go out hanging out. I do my thing. And then Jaeger hooked us up with the NRA Museum. He goes, hey, go to the NRA Museum. Tell them I sent you. Go down in the basement, go upstairs, do everything cool. So we go over to the NRA Museum. We go upstairs, go to the library, there's like a couple of rooms up there that are cool. That they show people, I guess. There's a cool collection of Garins. Or no, it's 1903s. I think it's a collection of 1903s Springfields, but it must be 24 of them, somebody's collection of them that is in like a really interesting framed, it's like a museum thing, but somebody gave it to them. So they own a lot of firearms that are given to them by people because they want to say, I'm going to give this to the NRA. And they think, I'm going to give this to the NRA. It'll be in the NRA's possession forever. Well, some of this stuff is just sitting on the wall in some of the rooms of the museum or of the office building because it can't all fit in the museum. So that's some of the stuff they have up in the library. You're looking at that. You're looking at all the books. There's a room up there where they clean everything. We went in there. There's another room where they kind of hold the stuff that's not in the museum, but they're fiddling with it at the time. So pretty much, taking pictures of it for the internet, let's say, that kind of thing. Taking pictures for books. I think what would happen is somebody might say, I need a picture of XYZ for my book or my project. And when they got around to it, or maybe with enough reason or whatever, they'd go get the item, take pictures of it, and put the item back in the museum. I think it seemed to be like that kind of room. Everything in there was fancy and accounted for and delicate. So anyway, we got to see kind of behind the scenes there. Then they took us down to the vault downstairs, and that was amazing. Like getting to see this giant vault where all these guns are from. It's the NRA's guns, and not too many people got down there, and nobody got down there with a camera before. So Marco and Haas and I got to hang out down there and look around, and just see a bunch of stuff. They were in the process of getting a bunch of guns together for the museum that they were creating in Missouri, the sporting museum. So it was kind of full with all the boxes and stuff that were getting packed. But it was, what's the word? It was like weeding out the collection because a lot of the stuff was being moved, but because it was in the process, it was also more clutter. So anyhow, it was kind of cool to be able to get down there. We didn't quite get our run of the place, which would have been awesome, but we did get to hang out there for quite a while. So we got back up, or we got out of there. We got said goodbye to Marco, headed back to Tennessee, and that's when we went down to Chattanooga and hung out with Artisan Tony. He hooked us up and put us in the Chattanooga Choo Choo Hotel, which is a bunch of trains. It's Chattanooga Choo Choo. So he put us up in one of there. I got a bunch of pictures of the dog hanging out in the fancy old train furniture from back in the day. They'd let you have your dog in there. So it was pretty cool. Got to sleep in the Chattanooga Choo Choo and woke up, hung out with Tony. He took us to eat, showed us a bunch of stuff in Chattanooga, took us to a couple of gun shops, a couple of surplus stores. Then we went to a museum, the Fuller Collection at the Chickamauga Battlefield, I think it's south of Chattanooga. It might be in Georgia. And then Haas wanted to see some rocks or something really bad something from Georgia. So went to some hill, looked at some rocks, looked at some cannons up there. Tony might have bought us lunch. I forget. I think he bought us some fancy lunch after that. And then we booked south into Atlanta and hung out by the Glock factory. Went down by Eric's place. What is it? Moss Pond. Met up with Barry was still kicking and hanging out there. Eric had like hours before he would have been off of work. And we were just, being able to see Moss Pond was pretty cool, hanging out in there, kind of figuring out the scale and how the place was laid out. They had a lot of cool guns. So I was looking at like the Bowers. They had 2 different Bowers in the shop at the time. And it was just fascinating. It is a nice shop, right? It's a cool shop. And then while I'm farting around, they got a law hanging off the ceiling because this is Georgia and they probably got a lot more different military bases and stuff, right? They got a law, perfect law, really, really nice law hanging off the ceiling. So I'm like, what's the deal on that? And it was $100, which is insane because out here you can't even find a law for winning that. And this was one of the best condition laws since the ones we shot, like in basic, like the ones you'd fucking throw away. Like this was in good condition. So I go, how much is that thing? And they're like $100. I'm like, well, I'll buy that. So Barry goes up on the thing, grabs it off the ceiling, and I buy my law off of Barry. So they might have given me a discount even. I forget. They probably gave me a discount, right? I can't remember. I'm sure I got a discount though. We were still hanging around, went upstairs, hung out up there, did some cool stuff. Eric's a good dude. And then, we were bothering him, basically, wasting his time. We didn't want to get him in trouble hanging out at his job too long. So booked out of there, hung out at a bunch of other gun shops in that area. He hooked us up with where to go check out a couple of surplus stores that were cool. Really cool surplus stores. I've actually bought a couple of things at those surplus stores now that I'm thinking about it. And then finally hooked up with Eric. He was off for a couple of days, I think. After that, he showed us where to hang out at a hotel again because we're hemorrhaging money near where he's at. Or was, I don't know. He probably moved by now. But then we went to some place where he shot. Well, at the time where he shot at. I don't know if he shoots at the same place all the time. But went out to the place where he shoots at, and then kind of watched him set up and then shoot a chunk of his Halloween video, which was nuts. He spent like, I don't know, $500, if I remember right, on ammo and tannerite and soda and pumpkins and crap to shoot. Spent half a day setting it all up and everything. A good half a day, like as much time as anybody spends just going to the range. They spent just setting it all up, thinking it out, planning it out. And I guess we were there for them shooting it and everything. So, and then shot it all. And, we're listening to, or we're, having conversations about what he's doing. But when you're creating content, you're also talking about cameras and you're talking about strategies and you're talking about stuff. So it was pretty fun hanging out and just talking shop, I guess you could say. And then talking about some bigger stuff, some other stuff that was happening, this network shit that was going on. And then we didn't know what was right around the corner. This was October of 2012. So this was Georgia. This was the 13th state in our trip. It must have been something like day 15 or something by now. And, a couple of good weeks on the road, spending money almost every night. A couple of times we hung out at people's places, but nobody in their right mind is going to put two giant dudes and a Doberman, who's also, my Doberman was like 95 pounds. Wait, was he that big? He might have been 85 pounds. I think 85 pounds. Anyway, big dog. And nobody's going to set us up. So at some point, maybe twice along the trip, we had camped to save money, but we were not saving money. We were hemorrhaging money. So it was Georgia. We had another appointment in Alabama with Carcal and the people that import the Steyr Augs and the Steyrs. So met up with them, got to check out a bunch of gun shops in that area in Alabama, and then cut across Mississippi back into Tennessee, and then I guess Mississippi and Louisiana, back into Tennessee. What am I saying, Tennessee? Back into Texas, across New Mexico, back into Arizona. Most of that last part of the trip was hauling ass because I was running out of money, and faster get home, faster start editing video and stuff. We get home from this thing, and the thing in Connecticut happens. So that had happened, and it was all unfolding. So horrible things happen, but you don't know the future. So no one knows what's about to happen. Everybody is still kind of doing life as normal. One of the things that was happening in the mix of 2012 was Hickok had shot some pumpkins at some point. I forget when he shot the pumpkins, probably 2011, I guess, Halloween. Would that make sense? And whenever he shot some pumpkins, that went the equivalent of going viral on news channels, and news channels show the same thing if they like it. So they showed his pumpkin shooting pretty much everywhere, which gave him, he went from some amount of followers to all of the followers. And since he was in Tennessee, just a few miles north of, let's say, near the people who were already in the video game industry making serious income, the video game agents, the video game networks said, hey, let's go find out what's going on with guns. And then Obama said, well, here's 20 executive actions. And then that turned into a whole thing. So this trip that we took was right at the beginning of a crazy amount of growth, disruption, and changes in the industry, in the gun industry, in the YouTube community, in the gun community, in society. Obama decided to just say, you know what, we're going after guns. And that changed a lot of stuff. In 2012, the brace was invented. right? And people were seeing that as think about what it would be like to be on the other end of the pistol brace when it was first invented and brought to the scene. SHOT Show 2012 was Obama's executive actions, and SIG has a brace on an AR pistol that the ATF says you can shoulder. That was the time that was the era that we ended the trip. I had joined a network like an asshole idiot. Don't join a network. It's my recommendation. And I didn't know what to do with my video because everything I put up on the internet on YouTube would have been the network's property. So that turned into a whole thing. So lots to talk about with this thing. That was sort of the itinerary, sort of the recap of some of the adventures. Turned out that at the end of it all, Haas had been smarter than I, even though he's a Marine. He had edited, posted and scheduled, I don't know how many, let's say 2 weeks worth of videos. So the whole time we were on the trip, Haas had videos firing up and going live. If he was sitting in the passenger seat, he was able to talk to people on their comments or whatever. I should mention on this 6,000 miles, 21 days, 16 states, we only lost cell coverage between Yeager's Place and Fort Campbell when we dipped down into some river there and right back out, and the internet came back. So we missed internet for just a moment, dipping down into some river valley in Tennessee or on the Tennessee, Kentucky. Oh, you know what? It's probably that valley. I never even thought about it. It's probably the river that is between Tennessee and Kentucky. Is that the Ohio River? It's probably that river. I never even thought about it, but we had to go right past that border. Anyhow, so somewhere in there, lost internet. And then basically, let's just say eastern New Mexico somewhere. I think we lost internet because it was in the middle of nowhere. And that was coming back from Red Dawn Place. So middle of nowhere and not on a highway. But otherwise, we had internet the entire time. And Haas had his videos firing off like every so often on a regular basis. I pretty much, as soon as I hit the road, no more videos. I do a lot of live stuff and I just don't do a lot of produced videos. So I had no videos posting the whole time. So I got back and my internet, my YouTube revenue had effectively been turned off for the 21 days we were gone, which means I got back to no check from YouTube that month. And it wasn't paying all the bills or anything, but it was paying some bills. So instead of having any income, I had no income. And then, or I had lost a month's worth of income and done nothing to get ready for Christmas, because that was in October is when you should be making your videos to edit in November and post in December. So it's kind of shitty timing, but you can't see the future. You can only do stuff, and then sometimes it lays down nicely with the rest of world events, and sometimes it does not. We were still able to do the tour. I'm trying to think. I think we had one flat tire. No other, knocking on two different kinds of wood here. No other kind of trouble as far as engine trouble or anything like that. I'm trying to think. Maybe we did. Sometimes you lose a water heater or like a starter and you forget about it because you just fix it in the parking lot. Maybe something like that happened. I know that kind of stuff happens. I didn't write it down, or I don't remember it if it did. But I do remember changing like a water heater in the cop car once. But, you know, on a 350, well, on that thing, it's a Ford motor. I don't know what they're called, but, you know, they're all easy to work on. So otherwise, though, you know, just tires maybe. One of the issues we had was we left Tucson with the trunk full, but the back seat completely empty. And we were going to leave the back seat completely empty for the dog. And for the most part, we were able to do that. But the trunk got absolutely full. I'm guessing Haas must have sent back probably 2 duffel bags worth of stuff to Tucson. And I don't think I had to send anything, but I did not buy anywhere near as much stuff as I would have bought if we would have had a bigger vehicle or more planning on having more empty space when we left. Well, let's see. I think I'm probably missing some stuff. Like I say, there's a lot to it, and other elements. I haven't even brought up cameras or the tech, other than the fact that we had internet. But it was a great tour. In retrospect, and in the grand scheme of things, uh, probably would change a couple of things, but I'm definitely glad we took it. I'm going to go over and take a look at the poll over here. We were around watching our adventures back in 2012. Only 8% of people said yes and before. 25% said around that time, which is actually quite a few people. That's about a third of the people have been around since 2012. Then a third of you said not quite that long. And then a third have said got here more recently. Well, I'm going to say end to that poll and welcome to everybody, no matter how long you've been around. We're using the internet to have conversations, to share and to archive the community. And, we're not trying to set down roots and create a large audience. We're not trying to create a huge community for the sake of community. Obviously, I've built communities quite a few times now, and there's probably another one in the works, but not communities built for size or for profit. Communities built to accomplish. And like I said, we'll probably continue to keep working on that. But this trip specifically, Haas and I took, was to do something creatively and different, something with intent, something we could do with in front of people with the YouTube, do something that had nothing to do with selling you anything or wasn't sponsored by anybody. We didn't have crowdfunding back then. So it was really just, I had not bought toys or anything with my YouTube earnings at the time. It was about $3,000 to take this trip, and gas and hotels and shit. We didn't really eat that much. We didn't, like I said, we camped a couple of times, but it turned out to, when you're an idiot and you're just stopping at campgrounds, you're paying almost as much for a campground as you are for a cheap hotel. So we just ended up going to cheaper and cheaper hotels. But we didn't even, it's not like we were drinking beers every night or nothing. Like, we barely ate, maybe twice a day kind of thing, vending machine food sometimes. So anyway, it was worth doing. And wanted to be able to get as far as we could in that cop car. I dig cannonball run type of stuff. I like the idea of adventure when it's not guaranteed. I drive around in a van that's, I guess, 20 years old. Is it that old? Yeah, I guess it's a 20-year-old van now. But it's inexpensive. Well, I guess it's inexpensive, but it's an adventure. It's fun. So this was an attempt to reminisce on it and to chat about it. It's interesting to see that there's some interest in our old adventures out there in different ways. And this was an attempt to begin a series that we'll be doing on Thursdays. So as you kind of see on the tour log here, this was not the first, but one of our early tours. Definitely the first large tour with crew, with Haas and other people involved, where we went through multiple states for multiple days and multiple destinations, 40-something different destinations in 2012. In 2013, well, to be honest, I went broke and had to recover from that. In 2014, the world changed completely for YouTube and for internet, and I started to question after knowing and seeing and understanding and then observing. I had no interest in going out. I had no ability to go out. I was still recovering a bit financially by then. But we did in 2015 head up to Vegas early and checked out all the different rental ranges. My goal there was to check out the options for the recreational machine gun shooting, so that when people went to SHOT Show in 2016, right, the next couple of months later, that they could potentially incorporate the machine gun shooting or some of the ranges into their coverage of the show. So in other words, we took a couple of years, well, a year to recover with the industry, and the industry exploded in 2013 and 14. And then I took a year there to recover from the change. That's when 2013 is when Gun Channels was created and when Every Second Matters was created. So in 2014, I wasn't on the road as much as, monitoring and building community there. And then, like I say, in 2015, I started to get back on the road. In 2016, Bob came down. We started the Daily Gun Show podcast that we're talking on right now. And we got back on the road with another 6,000 miles with that dude from Canada. So what we'll do like I said, this is the kind of beginning of a series. What we'll do in the next one is probably talk about Vegas and maybe a little bit about the interim there. See if that can, I don't know if that can take a whole show. I mean, I definitely can take a whole hour to talk about that tour of Vegas. And then the next show, we'll talk about 2016 and the tours with Bob around the United States and the West. Then in 2017, we get to the Bannerman Castle, 11,000 miles on the road that year. Actually, in 16, we can also talk about when we got over to California and hung out with Smeggy, and we drove around to all the different Ring of Fire pistol factories. Actually did quite a few tours in 2016. So then we'll do another week. We'll talk about 2017, that 11,000 mile tour where we got up to the Bannerman Castle finally, and then to the Gun Rights Policy Conference in Dallas. And then the 2018 tour where we got up to Chicago for the Gun Rights Policy Conference, and again over to California, up into Minnesota, and another 11,000 miles on the road. Then we'll do another show about the 12,000 miles we got in 2019, and that's driving oh, snap. I was going to say, how did I get to 11,000 miles? So that's because I went back to DC for the DC rally. Holy shit, I forgot about the DC rally. Yep. So then, everything slowed down with the craziness, and we'll do another show probably about the next couple of years, and then maybe another show about what's next for the tour. So it's not over. We just have to recover financially from the last couple of tours and regroup, get back on the road. We'll keep sharing our community and sharing the industry that supports it. One, for the goal of archiving it so that gun owners who don't yet or at the moment don't appreciate what's out there, have it when they do, or if they ever do. Nobody's obligated to, but if they ever decide to be interested in some of this stuff, we'll have put something there for them. But we're also just experiencing it for the people who are out there creating it, to let them know they're appreciated, and then to get a picture of it. There's already this thing that we're looking at here is an illustration I made of the Boot Hill Museum in Dodge City, Kansas. This is already a different museum since our visit there, and I don't remember which one this picture was taken in that I used for the illustration, but I've been there about 3 times now, and this was probably from one of the first times because it's now got a big giant building in front of all this stuff. You can't see any of this stuff anymore. All right. It's like a time capsule. Yeah, exactly. That's sort of the goal with the websites, and then these kind of conversations is to remember that stuff. I can go back and talk about the museums. I've done that before. We could talk about the factory tours. That's fun to do. Get people in that we met on the trips. That would be fun. And, something like the Wanamaker show that's this weekend. That'd be the kind of thing that, would be one of the destination points of a tour that we would take. I almost got to the Wanamaker show this time. Trust me, I was trying. Tried about 3 different ways to accomplish it, and just nothing seemed to work out. It's a shame because I'm not trying to go there just to go there. The Wanamaker show is an amazing resource. We're looking at an economy that's having some potential issues. And one of the things that people tend to purchase at a time of stress is firearms and the collectibles and the the commodities that are typically adjacent to firearms, which I'm talking about, like gold and silver and some of the precious, just antiques, I guess, things that are made of materials that are of value, but also are items that have historical value. Those kind of things are the kind of things that a lot of people will invest in to hold value at times of stress, and that's when the markets, the gun shows, are the opportunities for a lot of stuff happening. So whatever. So we'll continue to do these shows on Thursdays. Tomorrow is Friday. We'll be doing the look back at the week. All kinds of interesting stuff happened. I've been working on quite a few different things here. Had a chance to listen to kind of my normal amount of Second Amendment stuff, and there's definitely, with the elections and with the people who are doing their opinions of the results. No, what I'm trying to say, they're like recaps of the elections. There's certainly a lot to keep up with for tomorrow's wrap up. All right, I'm going to go check on the live stuff. I haven't really been paying too much attention, but out of the corner of my eye, it doesn't look like too many things were being said out here. But again, I appreciate the people that join us live. I do put links out. I'll continue to put links out. So if the co-hosts want to jump in on a Thursday and help keep the conversation going or ask a specific question, feel free. So let's see. We had Gunpowder Beauty, I think I mentioned earlier, was the first one to say hey. Smeggy was out there, joined in for a while earlier. Woods is out there. And G23, Bajoran jumped in, showed us that 1911, or no, that Beretta from earlier. That was pretty cool. Then Kurt said, hey, good evening. Did I already say DJ? DJ was out there for a bit. And then Jacob jumped in. Roy said, hey. And I think I already said Woods. So yeah, thanks everybody for joining. I don't think I'm missing any comments or any questions, but if I am, I do apologize. Feel free to leave them for us, and I'll address them in the future or in a reply to your comment. Either way, we do appreciate you joining us live. We'll be back to pick you up later.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.
Just threw a link into the description here, but there should be one in the description of the video as well for our website, GunShowLoopholeTour.com. That's the website where we post the tour logs and the links and the adventures and the photographs and the links to the videos from our various tours. So it's the GunShowLoopholeTour.com, and I definitely chose that with intent because they are not going to own Gun Show Loophole. We're going to play with that, and we're going to own it. And I guarantee you, by the time we're done, Gun Show Loophole, when searched for in the internet, will find our tour and not some anti-gun garbage.
Tonight's episode, The Ripoff.
Shit. Ninja? Ninja! Ninja!
Thank you for supporting our projects. If you'd like to buy us a cup of coffee, check out our Patreon channel.
The guys and gals at gunwebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thank you for watching gunwebsites.com. Do 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 do.